Senator Susan Collins is highlighting the importance of the 101st Maine Refueling Wing in Bangor. During a hearing in Washington, Collins talked about how important the Maine Air National Guard is for national defense. The current fuel cell hangar in Bangor was designed to accommodate the existing KC-135 refueling tankers. A proposed project would construct a new universal fuel hangar that can accommodate the existing aircraft along with future tankers. Collins asked Lieutenant General Tom Miller of the U.S. Air Force to explain how important it is to support legacy airframes while preparing for future tanks.
I'm an aircraft maintenance officer. It's what I've done my entire life. So the maintenance on weapon systems is critical, and the fuel cell, in particular for a tanker mission, is open fuel cell, explosive-proof lighting, air handling equipment, because the mission of the airplane is to refuel other airplanes. That Agile Common Hangar that's being planned can accommodate multiple KC-46, KC-135. We have evolved in our thinking on facilities so that when we recapitalize to different airplanes, we don't have the dimensions restricted down to the legacy airplanes.
Collins secured nearly $9.6 million for Maine Air National Guard projects in Bangor and Saco in the Military Construction Appropriations Bill.